Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's me, Ryan118. Today is another episode of Celtic Transfer Talk. It's been a couple of weeks since I last done one of these, I think. Well, probably about a week, but I've seen a couple of people asking in the comments section for another episode of it, so today I decided why not. We'll take it. There's not been big rumours, big news coming through for Celtic. We are on the brinks of signing one or two players as far as I'm aware. There's a few players who have left the club on loan, or people just in talks of leaving the club in general, but nothing really massive to talk about. We're not quite at that stage yet where we've signed Patrick Roberts, so we'll just need to wait and see when it comes through. But when big stuff happens, I will make a video about it on the channel. But today I decided, why don't we just do a kind of general update for Celtic and the transfer window for the 2017-18 season. So I've got all my stuff wrote down we're going to talk about, so let's waste no more time. Let's just jump right in here. I suppose the first thing to talk about is the very obvious thing, and that is that we are almost very close, according to most sources, to making our first signing of the transfer window, and that is Johnny Hayes. We briefly spoke about this in the last Celtic Transfer Talk, where I gave my opinion on the signing of Johnny Hayes. You know my opinion. I'm not going to go through my opinion again, but apparently it's been an improved offer from what was initially a first bid, and it'll include Ryan Christie heading out on loan to Aberdeen. We'll talk about that side of it in a moment, but Johnny Hayes looking to come in here. Don't exactly know what kind of role he's going to have in the squad yet. Right now, with the team that we've got, without no Patrick Roberts or without no other signing, it looks as though Hayes could potentially be a first team player, maybe on that right hand side, because I could see him getting in the team over Forrest. We'll have to wait and see, of course. We don't exactly know yet. Though I believe we will probably bring in another winger, a better winger than Johnny Hayes. Not to say that Johnny Hayes isn't a good player. I'm very happy with the signing of Johnny Hayes personally. A lot of fans might not be. They might think it's a waste of money. They might think it's a waste of a transfer. But even if he's coming out on the pitch as a backup and he's there to help players tiring or rest for Champions League games, then I think it's a good signing. He had a fantastic season, of course, with Aberdeen. They showed what he could do in that Scottish Cup final with that great goal he scored. He's a good player, and I think he'll do a good job for Celtic. And so far, Brendan Rodgers hasn't really gone wrong with any of the signings that he's made for Celtic, so it's good to have that little bit of faith. And I think Johnny Hayes will do what he has to do. Granted, he's 29 years old. A lot of people are saying that's why we shouldn't sign him. But I think, put the age aside, he's still got quality and he's still a quick player for his age. He still has a lot of skill in him. I think he'll be good. I really do think he could do a lot for us. Hopefully he doesn't flop. Aberdeen, really struggling to keep a hold of their players at the minute, which is worrying. They managed to keep a hold of the manager, though. Respect to Derek McInnes for that. This is a Celtic Transfer Talk, so don't really about going into that. I was thinking about making another video on that. I might later on, we'll see what happens. But Johnny Hayes looks to be signing. It's apparently personal terms have been discussed. It's just the official announcement we're waiting on. But as I said, it includes Ryan Christie going back on loan to Aberdeen, and I think that's a very good move. Send him back out for some more first team football, because he needs it, and I don't think he was going to get it this season at Celtic. I don't see him getting it anytime soon. So, develop him. And I'm not, as I've said before, I'm not the biggest fan of Ryan Christie, but he has obviously got the potential there. He's very young, so instead of getting rid of him altogether, send him out on loan, see the class that he's got in him, because he done well. He won Aberdeen's Young Player of the Season, so he could potentially have something for Celtic in the future. Instead of losing it altogether, let him develop that, let him bring it to the club in the future. Second thing to move on to is I talk of another winger, quite a more high profile player. Well, he's kind of faded away over the past year or two. Adnan Januzaj from Manchester United. Celtic are being linked with the signing of him. There's no fees or anything discussed here, although I believe it might be a free sign. I think it might be a free contract. I think he's expiring at Manchester United, and as far as I'm aware, Manchester United have told him they're not interested in signing on his contract. And what a fall from grace that boy's had. I remember 2013-14, I'm sure that was the season. David Moyes broke onto the scene, Adnan Januzaj, and he's getting next Ronaldo, all this, that, the hype's about him, and he looked really good. And if you've been around this channel long enough, you might know that I'm a Manchester United fan. They're the team I like to see do well in England. I just like Man United, you can say whatever. But I was excited about him. I was excited about the prospect of him. And then Louis van Gaal came in and he never got a game. And when he did get a game, it did not impress. And then obviously spent this season on loan to Sunderland. It wasn't the best of loan spells, let's be honest. It was quite woeful. But what he showed in that first season for Manchester United, I think we can get it back out of him up at Celtic. If it's a free contract, I would say sign him any day of the week. I would prioritise Patrick Roberts, as I've said many, many times, if that is possible. We'll come on to Patrick Roberts later in the video. But Adnan Januzaj, I think, would be a very very good signing, especially if it's for free, because as a player we can even make the slightest of profits on if we were to sell him. Because if we even sell him for 500 grand, that's 500 grand more than what we signed him for. But if he can bring out what he had in that first season under David Moyes at Manchester United, he could be a really good player for Celtic. Obviously the standard of our league isn't as big as England's. But you know, and Scott Sinclair, for example, has shown that he came up to here and he's absolutely tore the league apart and he's found his form. And could that happen with Adnan Januzaj? I think it could. I think we could give him a chance. I feel like he's been really hard done by the past few years. He's had a lot of critics. I think we can really help find his form again, and hopefully he could if he came up here. I think it'd be a good signing. Adnan Januzaj, if I was to say sign him or not, I would say sign him. It might get to the point where we're signing too many wingers, because would you want to have Hayes, Januzaj, Roberts if he was to sign, Forrest, Sinclair, Mackay-Steven all on the same team? Maybe that's a bit too much, but you can't argue with depth. But Januzaj would be a good, he's a left winger, so you know, Sinclair's getting a bit older. If he needs to rest more, Januzaj is always a good option. And I would say if we have to, I would bring him in. But there are other clubs that are interested in him, the likes of Roma. I could see him choosing like Roma over Celtic, so we'll see how it goes. But right now he is being linked with Celtic. My opinion, I would sign him. Next thing to move on to is Patrick Roberts. As I said a moment ago, we're going to talk about him. Never realised it was the next thing I had wrote down. Patrick Roberts, we're waiting to find out. There's not been any word from Manchester City, any word from Celtic, any word from Sky Sports, nothing. No official sources. The most I've seen is stuff on Celtic Facebook pages. And you can only trust Celtic Facebook pages to a certain extent. There's nothing really down in concrete, there's nothing official, apart from something that came out yesterday from a couple of sources. Apparently 12 teams are interested in Patrick Roberts. Not the most ensuring of news, not what you want to hear. 12 teams want Patrick Roberts. Obviously we will be one of those 12 teams. I've heard Nice are after him. I was hearing a couple of weeks ago about Hoffenheim wanting him, a couple of other German teams, and obviously there'll be clubs in the Premier League who want Patrick Roberts. He has been remarkable over the past year and a half for Celtic, showing true class, so teams are going to want him. Hopefully if it does come to the point where he's got to choose out of 12 teams, I'm hoping he's one of these players who'll go with his heart and know that the fans up here love him, and he'll be welcome, and he's got pals in Kieran Tierney and he's going to pick us. Hopefully that's the case. But I think it's at the end of the day, it's going to come down to money. Who's going to offer the most to Manchester City first of all, and then who's going to offer the most to Patrick Roberts? Because the tops he's going to get up here is the pure maximum is, I'd say, £30,000-40,000 a week. That is the absolute maximum a player's going to get paid at Celtic. Teams in England can quite obviously double that. So we'll have to wait and see. But as I said, Man City, say for example, Hoffenheim, who I said a moment ago, they offer Man City £12 million. Celtic, I don't think are going to compete with that. I think the most we'd be able to do is offer them like $4 million up front and then pay them back in clauses. So, you know, we've got to just wait and see. Word will obviously come out over time, but hopefully it will be Celtic he manages to go to, because he is the ultimate priority in my eyes for Celtic. As I've said over and over and over again in these videos. So we'll wait and see. But 12 teams wanting Patrick Roberts. It is getting a bit weary on that front. Hopefully, as it goes to though. But obviously it's his career, his choice, and we can't disrespect whatever he chooses to do. So best of luck to him, whatever happens. But he knows who to choose. Well, he should know who to choose. Leigh Griffiths, a sparkling, fantastic performance against Newcastle. Against England a couple of weeks ago, last week even, not a couple of weeks ago. 2 free kicks, and ever since, apparently English teams are right after him. Newcastle being one of those teams. I believe it was Newcastle and somebody else. A couple of Premier League teams are in for Leigh Griffiths. Apparently they're keeping their eye on him. Hopefully he manages to stay at Celtic. He's a great striker option alongside Moussa Dembele. Not much to say apart from the fact that they're interested in him, but hopefully Leigh Griffiths will stay. I think he's expressed interest that he wants to stay at Celtic from what I've seen, but obviously this is nothing official, nothing whatever, but there has been links with him to at Newcastle, but you know, obviously they can offer him big wages. But hopefully he stays at Celtic. Not much to say in the matter apart from that. Probably more stuff will come out over time about Leigh Griffiths and English clubs, but for now that's all it is. It's only interest. There's been nothing about bids or anything. But if we need to give him a bit higher contract, I think I would do it. He's a great option to have and the fans love him. So I'd keep him around. And there's the PC monitor going off. I need to find a way to stop this. I'm so sorry for that. The final couple of things, Moussa Dembele looking like he's going to stay at Celtic after the talks of AC Milan and such wanting him. And you had this whole thing about going to Boston that people are getting scared over. There's one thing, a lot of people, I've seen a few people commenting on these things on Facebook about Moussa Dembele, and he was saying, big move alert on the way and stuff, and people were saying, fuck him, get it up him, you've used this, now fuck off, we don't want you if you're just going to leave like that. Get a grip. Just, if he's going to go, just let him. It's his career. It's his choice. He done fantastically for Celtic. I don't think there should be disrespect to him in any way. He done his job. If he was to leave, which it doesn't look as though he's going to, if he was to leave, then fair play to him. He's earned it. He earned the big move after having this fantastic season. But it looks set he's staying, which I'm very happy about because he's my favourite player. But Mr. Dembele looks set to stay. And the final thing before we end off the video, Celtic, they've actually made 2 signings. This one, not really if you talk about Hayes, they've made 2 signings. Barry Coffey, 16-year-old Irish man, boy, whatever, 16. I mean, he's younger than me. It feels weird saying somebody younger than me is signed. But we've beat some big clubs, if I'm looking here at my wee notes. We beat some big clubs to sign in this guy. So, is this big for the future? It must be. If teams like Manchester United, Chelsea, Manchester City all wanted him and they chose Celtic, this must be big for the future. I'm looking forward to seeing how his development goes. Maybe get into the team in a couple of years' time, who knows. Barry Coffey, remember the name, that's all I can say. He made an appearance for Chelsea in a youth tournament thing as well. He helped Ireland win a trophy or something in Edinburgh. He's looking like he could be good, and he's signed for the development squad. So, big for the future, who knows. Barry Coffey, that's all I can say. Remember the name. And maybe in a couple of years' time we'll be singing his name. But that's it for this transfer talk video. I hope you've enjoyed it. It was a bit impromptu. I was not planning on doing it, but it's out now. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching. For me, Ryan Mulvaney, I'll see you all next time.